It's your friendly neighborhood puppy chaser. As requested, I'll be discussing animal shelters in this video. The good, the bad, the way it is. As a whole, shelters are an integral part of animal welfare. They provide housing, nutrition, and veterinary care for thousands of animals in need. Of course, ACOs need them to hold animals in protective custody for court cases. But you guys probably know all that. Here are some things you might not know. There are quite a few misconceptions about how shelters work, especially no-kill shelters. Most of the time, staff do their best to adopt out every animal that comes through shelter doors. Unfortunately, that's not realistic. Animals are euthanized for many reasons, the most common being illness, temperament, and age. Now, there's no way to know exactly how many animals are put to sleep or why, because a national euthanasia log does not exist. What I can tell you is that euthanizing for space is a lot less frequent than many are led to believe. Usually, if a shelter is having issues with kenneling, they will either source out some of the animals to rescues and volunteer fosters, or they will temporarily refuse owner surrenders. No-kill shelters aren't much different. They basically handle things the same way that all shelters do. If the animal is sick or aggressive, it will be put down. If they don't have room for it, the animal gets referred elsewhere. It's just a label. A shelter that doesn't don the no-kill label is not automatically a kill shelter. They don't kill animals for no reason. I can only speak for the shelters I have direct knowledge of, but there are a few things potential adopters should take into consideration. One is the blatant changes to the listed breed of a dog, particularly pit bulls, to something more generalized. A lot of times they are called lab mixes or terrier mixes. Shelters do this to avoid calling them what they are, because what they are is less desirable. A lab mix will get adopted quicker than a pit bull or a Staffordshire Terrier. Not all shelters do this, and I am impressed by the number that don't, but be wary of the ones that do. They'll likely be the ones who take part in this next little stunt. I see this a lot in rescues, but some shelters do it too. Withholding information about an animal's past to make them seem more adoptable. I have witnessed this personally, and it disgusts me. As I said before, not all shelters. But there have been dogs who were surrendered because of aggression issues that got adopted back out to people who didn't know that information. For example, I watched a pit bull who was in the shelter for killing another dog get adopted out to a family with kids. That same week, the dog was returned for biting the family's 10-year-old son. It would spend 30 days in quarantine, then be put back out on the adoption floor for some other sucker. They've also done this with dogs having severe separation anxiety. The adopters were unaware of this issue, which led to urinating in the house anytime the people left the room. Personally, I adopted a dog who turned out to be dog aggressive, and when I corrected him, he turned on me. The rescue withheld that information as I would not have adopted him if I knew. Obviously, I don't have him anymore. I don't care what kind of shelter you have. If a dog is aggressive, period, toward people or other dogs, it should be immediately euthanized. There's too much of a risk to allow these animals into the general public. Not all my experiences with shelters have been bad ones. It really depends on who is running it and what their motives are. My personal belief is the general public needs to take first priority. If a dog or cat is aggressive, and I'm not talking about initial fear at intake, it should be humanely euthanized. There are plenty of friendly animals in need of homes. Why waste money and effort on a potentially risky adoption? Quickly, I'm going to end with my sentiment on rescues. I have a bone to pick with rescues. They make it near impossible for good people to adopt. You'd think they'd relax their requirements a bit if they really cared about finding homes for their pets. Shoot, I had a rescue deny me because they didn't think I'd be a good match for the dog, but we never even met. They went based off my age and experience at the time. Rescues will deny you if they don't like your house, your fence, your neighbors, or your face. It drives me nuts. I will never try getting a dog from a rescue again because either I get denied or I get deceived. I'll take Janko for 400, Alex. Shelters can be that way too, but I've had better luck with them. You just have to know what to look for in the person you talk with and the animal you meet. Do your homework and ask to spend a lot of time with a potential pet before you commit to adoption. Well, that's my 2 cents. More like $2. For now, this is ACO Twiggy calling 1042. Till next time.